This is What You Can Do About Taking Control of Your Own Health, a podcast for people interested in learning how to create bodies that are healthy, strong, fit, and disease resistant, as well as in exploring why we get sick. I'm Sean McClendon, your host. I'm a certified personal trainer. I am an author and a health and fitness enthusiast. Thank you for joining me today. Before we get into the topic for today, my featured book for today is my book called What You Can Do About Type 2 Diabetes. So, type 2 diabetes is one of the most pervasive and deadly diseases of our time. It also happens to be one of the most preventable, treatable, and potentially reversible diseases as well. So in my book, What You Can Do About Type 2 Diabetes, I break down the causes of type 2 diabetes, as well as lifestyle habits you can adopt literally today to either prevent diabetes or possibly reverse diabetes if you have it already. So the book also includes a week-by-week plan that you can follow to strategically add the tips in the book to your lifestyle without having to figure out how to do so on your own. So this book will help you to prevent, manage, possibly reverse type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes. It will help you learn about type 2 diabetes diet strategies, and it'll help you learn about helpful exercise strategies as well and other lifestyle changes that you can adopt. So there's so much focus now on how to manage type 2 diabetes, yet so little focus on how one can, sorry, I thought I heard something, but so little focus on how one can actually possibly reverse it. So that's the whole purpose of this book. If that sounds good to you, this is your book. Make sure you look in the description below and buy your copy of What You Can Do About Type 2 Diabetes on Amazon. All right. So this information on this podcast is based on my personal research and opinion and is not meant to be a substitute for advice from a doctor or physician. You're advised to consult your doctor or physician before making any changes to your lifestyle. All right. So today's topic is the topic of how diet impacts the body way more than exercise for most of us. I'll say, for the large majority of people who are living today. The diet has a much bigger impact on your body. And when I talk about impact on the body, the main thing I'm talking about now is your body composition, how much fat you carry and that type of thing. Now, I'm never one to only focus on weight. I talk about it a good bit because it's one of those things that is very much in the public conversation when it comes to, health and fitness, but it's not the only thing. Your weight is kind of like a indicator of your overall health. It's like just one indicator. It tends to be one of the more significant ones to us because it's visible. And we put in our society, we put a lot of importance on that. Put a lot of importance on the number because we have scales and all that kind of stuff instead of using that number as a marker, like a metric to kind of help us to track our health in this small way. But anyway, I digress. Maybe there'll be a separate podcast about that so I can explain more so what I mean by some of that because there's other topics in there and what I just said. So anyhow, the main reason I'm recording this episode is because I know, based on my personal training experience, based on observation, that it is a lot of you out there who are probably confused, frustrated, tired of not seeing results, not actually getting the body that you want. And you're exercising. You're actually out there walking every day. You pumping them arms. You're going to step class. You're doing yoga. You're doing Pilates. You're doing all these different types of things, and you just can't seem to get results, seemingly no matter what you do. So what I want to tell you is, if you have not changed your diet, then all you're going to do is see more of the same. Now, what I'm saying is probably obvious to you, to most people, but I have to say it because I think that even though it might be obvious, so to speak, we're still not really, really fully understanding how much of a big deal your diet is when it comes to your body composition, how much fat you're carrying, that type of thing. So what I did was I generated some numbers for you to kind of like consider. Let me pull them up here. So first of all, like I say, diet is way more important when it comes to your body composition, fat and muscle and all that stuff. Diet is way more important. Exercise definitely plays a part. A part. If it didn't play a part, then you wouldn't have, athletes wouldn't look the way that they look. If exercise didn't play a part, because a big part of the reason why they look the way they look is because of the type of exercise and training that they do. Now, any exercise you do, regardless of how much it affects your body, your weight, it's going to produce some benefit. So, you're going to get cardiovascular benefit from routine, consistent exercise, because you're getting your heart pumping, you're getting your lungs kind of moving and whatnot, and that's kind of helping to improve your blood flow. That's helping to improve the function of your heart muscle. It's helping to improve the function of your lungs and the ability of your body to take in enough oxygen. It's going to improve, to other degrees, brain health. And I think a lot of that tends to be, at least in part, from the improved blood flow. You're going to improve your bone density because of the weight bearing on your legs, and other things, even if you don't really see much of a weight benefit. So what I want to say is exercise is always going to be beneficial. However, unless you are a high level athlete doing something like track and field or basketball or soccer or tennis or something like that, that's very high intensity, swimming, gymnastics, unless you're one of these type of athletes, it is not practical at all for you to try to out exercise your diet, especially if your diet is junk. But even if your diet is pretty clean, but you eat a whole lot of, you overemphasize high energy foods, high carbohydrate foods. Okay. And I run a risk whenever I say high carbohydrate, of kind of adding to the demonization of carbs. And I don't believe in that, but I do believe that the average American consumes way more of those type of foods than is practical for the amount of activity that we do on average in our culture. So check this out. And I hope this really kind of illustrates the point I'm making. So I went and did some research on different types of activities, exercises that people do, and about the amount of calories that are burned in 30 minutes of activity. So stuff like step aerobics, walking, swimming, dancing, basketball, running, jumping rope, stuff like that. So let's take walking. Walking is one of those things that a lot of people do. It's one of the best exercises you can do because it's so accessible and it's easy on your joints, and pretty much anybody can do it. For the average 140 pound to 160 pound person, walking 30 minutes burns about 112 calories. 112 calories in 30 minutes. Now, as far as 112 calories in 30 minutes. So for the calorie counters out there, which I'm not hating on counting calories, but I'm just trying to illustrate a point. First of all, when you look at the back of a nutrition label, all of those numbers are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. I think it was like way back when these were developed, it's like the average amount of calories consumed by a 150 pound man, I want to say. Now, a lot has changed since this first started, since the nutrition facts labels were first created. Everybody is not a 150 pound man. Calorie consumption on a larger scale is way more than 2,000 calories for most people. For ladies, it may be a little closer to 2,000 calories a day, for sure. But still, I think for everybody, you average more than 2,000 calories a day. So what I did is I made some calculations kind of based on a person who's consuming 3,000 calories a day, just to see how much activity you would need to do to break even approximately with between your diet and exercise with just calories now. So if you were walking 30 minutes, if you were walking and burning 112 calories every 30 minutes, you would have to walk 803 minutes a day to break even on the calorie side of things. And you'll understand why I'm saying that later. 803 minutes, which is about 13 hours. All right, so think about that. So if you were eating 3,000 calories a day, you would have to walk 13 hours to break even and burn the amount of calories that you take in. Okay? Now, who out here is going to walk 13 hours? Who's going to walk 13 hours a day? Who has even time to do that if you even wanted to do that? You see what I'm saying? So it's not practical. So let's take it up a little bit. What if you were doing step aerobics? So step aerobics apparently burns 360 calories every 30 minutes. And step aerobics, y'all who do those type of aerobics, y'all be getting it in for sure. I've never done it before, but I like watching people doing it. It's kind of disorienting, all the twisting and stuff, but it's pretty cool. So 360 calories every 30 minutes. That's up from 112 calories for walking. So, that's like almost 3 times more, somewhere around 3 times more calories burned in that same amount of time. You would have to exercise, do 240 minutes of step aerobics or 4 hours of step aerobics to break even 3,000 calories. So 4 hours of step aerobics is definitely less than 13 hours of walking. But is that practical? Is it practical? Can you sit there and go? I mean, maybe you could break it up throughout the day and do an hour in the early morning, and an hour mid morning, hour after lunch, and an hour before dinner or something like that. But again, who really has time for that? Who's really going to do that? And imagine how exhausted you would be. It's just not practical. Okay. And you could take it even higher. Like if you jump rope for 30 minutes a day, you would have to do, I mean, not 30 minutes a day, but if you jump rope, then you had to do 3.5 hours of jumping rope every day to break even with your 3,000 calories. So this illustrates my point. It's not practical, regardless of what you do, to try to burn calories that from a diet that has not been made healthier, to try to lose weight. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not practical. Now, the only people who actually get close to that, like I kind of said before, are athletes. You may remember Michael Phelps, who I mentioned from time to time, the well-decorated Olympian swimmer who, whenever he won all those medals back in 2008, I want to say, it came out that he was eating 12,000 to 15,000 calories a day just to maintain his body weight. If you look at Michael Phelps, he was lean, very tall, muscled and whatnot, but he was having to eat 12 to 15,000 calories every single day. Now he had to do that. He had to do that to maintain his weight. Why? Because he was swimming on a competitive level for about 6 hours a day. So literally like his metabolic rate was sky high. He probably could not hold on to weight. So he's, again, very heavily muscled, doing one of the most vigorous kind of cardio activities you could do. Running. I mean, not running, swimming. I don't know where my brain was just then. But that's one of the most intense exercises you can do when you swim. And so his metabolic rate, his rate of burning calories is through the roof. And so he actually had to eat to maintain his weight. And now he was eating a lot of junk food for sure, or a lot of very high calorie stuff to try to like get in everything he needed so he wouldn't be losing, weight. But you see my point, you have other people, basketball players, track people exercising 3, 4, 5, 6 hours every single day. This is their job. For the average person, being active is not our job, unless maybe you are one who farms, but even these days, farmers a lot of times do a lot of stuff by machine. So you may, unless you're going and picking fruits and vegetables and things like that, you're just not gonna be doing that much activity, or you're not gonna have time to. So the main point I want to drive home is that it's not practical to think that you can like exercise and overcome like a poor diet. So if you're getting frustrated about not seeing results from the consistent exercise you've been doing, you need to kind of go back and really think about what you're doing, because like if you haven't made any changes to your diet, of course you're not going to see any difference. Period. So you might as well just kind of like really just accept that and adjust your diet. Now, the other thing I want to say in this episode is it's important to understand that it's not just calories that affect how much you weigh, how much weight you gain, and all that type of stuff. It's a big hormonal thing too. And I'm not going to get even close to getting into all the details of all the hormones that play. But one of the biggest ones is insulin. Insulin, we know it's associated with diabetes. We know that insulin is associated with blood sugar. And specifically what it does is it enables your body to utilize the sugar that you consume for energy. So it literally will open up your cells, the various cells of your body, and allow sugar inside. Now, because a lot of us don't have a lot of muscle mass and because we're very inactive, and we eat these very starchy, sugary foods, what happens is when insulin is secreted, it's a whole lot because it's trying to compensate for all the sugar we're consuming. And then the muscles have no use for it because they're not really doing much of anything. And so, therefore, a lot of those calories end up getting stored in your fat cells. Insulin allows them into your fat cells. And a lot of us are like literally, by the way that we're eating, primarily, plus being inactive, we are just not allowing our cells to ever get out of fat gain mode. We stay gaining fat because we're consuming sugary stuff from the time we get up, a breakfast of coffee, juice, and pastries, all the way till we get to bedtime, where we're eating, a couple of dinner rolls with some rice and macaroni and cheese, and then polishing it off with sweet tea and ice cream. So like we're gaining tons and tons of weight. This is why. This is the biggest reason, man. And I really hope you kind of understand what I'm saying. You have very high spiked insulin, and insulin is it's not called the fat storage hormone for nothing. You are spiking your insulin, and your pancreas is putting out so much insulin that you stay in fat gain mode. Okay. The typical American diet is very high in sugars and starches. And I think one of the biggest blames for that is the food pyramid that we had when I was growing up, that said that the main food group that we should eat from is the starchy foods, the grains, and all that kind of stuff, which none of us is active enough to even we're just not active enough to do that. Now, so again, the main thing I'm getting at is it's not practical to try to out exercise a diet that is very high in sugars and starches, especially if it's a junk food diet. So what exercise is going to do is you will see a little bit of result even if you haven't changed your diet. And that's because exercise, one, is going to burn more calories in the immediate time frame, like around when you're exercising. And it is going to increase your metabolic rate, your basal metabolic rate, which is just kind of like the amount of calories your body needs for the base amount of activity. It's going to increase that for a few days too. So you're going to increase your metabolism in a way that causes you to burn more calories than usual. That said, it's not going to somehow kind of add up to overcome whatever you're eating if you're eating a massive amount of calories and sugars and starches every day. Now, another thing that does help is whenever you gain muscle. You gain muscle by subjecting your muscles to stresses that cause them to grow. That's through strength training, lifting weights, calisthenics, bodyweight exercises, Pilates, anything that really subjects your muscles to stresses that causes them to kind of micro damage and then have to adapt and repair from that. Muscle is very highly metabolically active tissue. And so the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism, because you have more muscle that's going to be burning more sugar. That said, even with that, I mean, that's going to increase your metabolism over time in a sustained kind of way. But even still, you can't expect that to just make you lean. You have to make adjustments to your diet, and specifically the type of adjustments you need to make need to involve reducing the amount of calories you consume. That's primarily through, like switching out a lot of the grains and high carb foods that you consume for non-starchy vegetables that are low calorie and high density of nutrients. That's going to involve maybe not eating as much, maybe intermittent fasting, which is kind of one of those things that everybody's doing these days, including myself, which I think is a good idea for many reasons, many health reasons, on that note. But those are the kind of diet changes you need to be making, like eliminating sweet drinks and eliminating, eating a lot of breads and stuff like that. In favor of, again, just high nutrient, low carb, lower calorie foods in your diet. And then just kind of understanding also that you don't have to have all the snacks and everything, contrary to what we've been made to believe, that we need snacks all the time to kind of keep our blood sugar regulated or whatever. Stopping the late eating, different things like that. This is what's going to actually help you to see results from your exercise. Now, again, and I'm going to keep on making this statement: calories, carbs are by no means the most important things having to do with your diet. I mentioned them for the sake of this episode, but it's so much other stuff that's so much more important for your overall health. Your weight is but one indicator of where your health is. And the last point I want to make in this episode, just to kind of illustrate my point, is you can exercise all you want to, but you can never out-exercise preservatives, additives, chemicals, and toxins that we find in a lot of the standard American diet food that we eat. You can't out-exercise that. Those things, which we forget about a lot of times because we're so focused on weight, those things can cause like deficiency in the way that your body runs. It can cause you to develop other diseases and things because like you have chemicals in your body that are messing up the way that it performs. So even as we have this conversation about changing your diet, and not expecting just exercise to give you the body changes you want, even as we talk about that, please understand that a healthy weight is going to really be a byproduct of a healthy lifestyle. You have to be courageous enough to go ahead and make the changes to your diet, not for the sake of just losing the weight, because you want something that is going to be your diet, period. So I'm talking about for the sake of you having a healthier body, having a body that runs well, having a long lifespan and a long health span because your body gets what it needs. Okay, so I'm going to let that be it. I could go on and on, but just remember, you can't out-exercise a bad diet. You can't out-exercise a diet that is too high in energy types of foods or whatever. You can't. It doesn't matter how long you've been walking. It doesn't matter how many exercise classes you do. None of that stuff really matters when it comes to your weight, unless you're going to be exercising for like half a day. Okay, so keep that in mind. Make the changes to your diet that you need to make, okay? Make sure you get a copy of my book, What You Can Do About Type 2 Diabetes, in the description. Don't forget to share this episode, like this episode, subscribe to my podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel and whatnot. And we're going to let that be it. As I always say, your doctor is not responsible for your health. You are. God bless you.